The soft glow of the Christmas tree illuminated the tension etched across Elena Rodriguez's face. Her mother-in-law, Sophia Garrett, moved gracefully through the living room, distributing gifts with calculated precision. Each of her grandchildren, Michael, Emma, and Zachary, received the latest iPhone 16 Pro Max, their eyes sparkling with excitement as they unwrapped the sleek devices. All except Maya. Elena watched her 12-year-old daughter sit quietly in the corner, her dark eyes fixed on the floor, shoulders slightly hunched. The deliberate exclusion was impossible to ignore. Sophia's actions were never accidental. Every gesture was a carefully choreographed performance of familial power dynamics. "Something wrong, Elena?" Sophia's voice cut through the room like a polished blade, her perfectly manicured nails tracing the rim of her crystal wineglass. Elena forced a smile that never reached her eyes. "Everything's fine," she managed, her voice a controlled whisper that masked a brewing storm of emotions. Michael, her oldest nephew, couldn't contain his excitement. "Grandma, this is the most amazing phone ever. Look at the holographic display." He twirled the device, its metallic surface catching the twinkling Christmas lights. Emma and Zachary chimed in, their chorus of gratitude filling the room. Maya remained silent, her fingers absently tracing a loose thread on her sweater. Later that evening, after the family gathering had dispersed, Elena confronted her mother-in-law in the kitchen. Sophia was meticulously arranging leftover Christmas cookies, her movements precise and calculated. "Why didn't you give Maya a phone?" Elena's question hung in the air, direct and unadorned. Sophia didn't immediately respond. She placed a snowflake-shaped cookie on a pristine white plate, her silence more telling than words. When she finally spoke, her tone was measured, almost clinical. "Maya is different," she said, not meeting Elena's gaze. "She doesn't quite fit in with the other children." The implication was clear. Maya, adopted 3 years ago, was somehow less worthy, less part of the family. Elena felt a rage building inside her, a slow-burning fire of maternal protection. "Different how?" Elena's voice was quiet, dangerous. Sophia finally looked up, her steel-blue eyes matching the winter chill outside. "You know exactly what I mean, Elena. She's not like the others." Maya's adoption had been a journey of love. Elena and her husband Carlos had chosen her, loved her completely. The suggestion that their daughter was somehow less valuable cut deeper than any physical wound. "She is my daughter," Elena said, each word carefully enunciated. "Exactly the same as your other grandchildren." But they both knew the unspoken truth. In Sophia's world, blood meant everything. Adoption was a footnote, a compromise, never quite the same as a biological connection. As Elena walked away, she caught a glimpse of Maya in the hallway mirror. The young girl's reflection showed a mixture of hurt and resilience, a silent strength that would become the foundation of their coming journey. This moment, Elena realized, was about more than a missing iPhone. It was about identity, belonging, and the true meaning of family. The drive home was a suffocating silence. Maya sat in the passenger seat, her reflection ghost-like against the car window, watching the winter landscape blur past. Elena gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, wrestling with a tempest of emotions. "Mom?" Maya's voice broke the silence, soft and tentative. "Am I not good enough?" The question struck Elena like a physical blow. She pulled the car over to the shoulder, turning to face her daughter. Tears threatened to breach her carefully maintained composure. "You are more than good enough," Elena said fiercely. "You are extraordinary. Do you hear me?" Maya's eyes, deep brown and questioning, searched her mother's face. Adopted from Guatemala when she was 9, Maya had already survived more than most adults. She understood rejection intimately, had lived with uncertainty before finding her forever family with Elena and Carlos. Carlos, a software engineer, had been quieter about the incident. "These things happen," he'd said earlier, avoiding Elena's intense gaze. "My mother can be complicated." But Elena knew it was more than complication. It was calculated cruelty. That night, after Maya had retreated to her room, Elena began her investigation. She pulled out old family albums, traced the intricate web of Sophia's relationships. Her mother-in-law came from old money, a lineage obsessed with bloodlines and traditional expectations. Elena discovered patterns, subtle discriminations she'd previously overlooked. How Sophia's conversations always centered around her biological grandchildren. How family stories always seemed to exclude Maya, treating her like a peripheral character in their narrative. She remembered the day they'd adopted Maya. Carlos's mother had been conspicuously absent from the airport, the only family member not present to welcome their new daughter. At the time, Elena had attributed it to her mother-in-law's busy schedule. Now, she saw it differently. Maya's room was a sanctuary of creativity. Artwork covered the walls, vibrant paintings that spoke of resilience and hope. A sketch caught Elena's eye, a family portrait where everyone was connected, holding hands, their faces indistinguishable except for their unique expressions. "She knows," Elena whispered to herself. "She understands more than we realize." The iPhone was just a symbol, a tangible representation of a deeper wound, the suggestion that Maya was less worthy, less loved, less part of the family. Carlos found Elena in Maya's room, staring at the artwork. "We'll handle this," he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. His touch was gentle, but Elena felt the steel beneath his calm exterior. They would not let Sophia's prejudice define their daughter's worth. They would not allow a technological gift to become a weapon of emotional destruction. Maya emerged from her shower, hair damp, wearing oversized pajamas. "I'm okay," she said, reading her mother's worried expression. "Really?" But Elena knew the journey of healing and confrontation was just beginning. Elena's strategy began to take shape in the quiet hours of the night. Her laptop glowed softly as she compiled information, each click a calculated step towards understanding the intricate dynamics of her extended family. First, she reached out to her sister-in-law, Rebecca, Carlos's younger sister and the family's unofficial historian. They met at a small cafe, tucked away from prying eyes, over steaming cups of artisan coffee. "I've always known Mom was difficult," Rebecca whispered, leaning forward. "But with Maya, it's different. There's something deeper." Rebecca shared family stories that Elena had never heard. Tales of Sophia's own childhood, of generational trauma passed down like a toxic inheritance. Their grandfather had been ruthlessly selective, constantly comparing his children, creating divisions that ran deep and silent. "Mom learned from the best," Rebecca said, a bitter smile playing on her lips. Conditional love was her family's currency. Elena took meticulous notes. Each revelation was a piece of a complex puzzle, a strategy forming in her mind. She wasn't looking for simple revenge, but a comprehensive approach that would expose the underlying issues. Her next move was gathering external perspectives. She contacted a family therapist specializing in adoption and intergenerational dynamics, carefully explaining the situation without revealing names. Dr. Martinez's insights were illuminating. "These behaviors rarely exist in isolation," she explained. "They're complex manifestations of deep-seated fears, insecurities, and unresolved traumas." Carlos became an unexpected ally. Initially hesitant, he began to see the depth of the emotional wound Sophia had inflicted. Together, they developed a multi-layered approach. They would not confront Sophia directly, at least, not immediately. Instead, they would create a series of strategic interventions designed to expose her biases and challenge her perception of family. Maya became an unexpected collaborator. Rather than feeling defeated, she approached the situation with a maturity that surprised her parents. "I want to understand," she told them, "not just get back at her." Elena discovered Sophia's professional and social networks. She learned about her mother-in-law's board positions, her community involvement, her carefully curated public image. Each connection was a potential pressure point. They identified key individuals in Sophia's circle: a philanthropic board where she held significant influence, the country club where her social status was carefully maintained, the charity organizations she championed. The plan wasn't about destruction. It was about illumination. They would create situations that would gently but firmly expose Sophia's discriminatory behavior, forcing her to confront her own biases. Carlos compiled a dossier of Maya's achievements. Her artwork had recently won a regional competition. Her academic records were impeccable. Her language skills were impressive. They would ensure these accomplishments became visible in the exact circles Sophia considered most important. "We're not fighting fire with fire," Elena explained to Maya one evening. "We're showing the world exactly who you are: brilliant, talented, worthy." Maya's smile was a mixture of determination and hope. The iPhone incident would not define her. She would define herself. The chess pieces were set. The first moves were about to be made. The first domino fell during the annual Garrett Family Foundation Charity Gala. Maya, dressed in a sophisticated deep blue blazer, stood beside Elena, radiating confidence. Rebecca had helped orchestrate the evening's subtle drama, ensuring maximum visibility for their carefully planned exposure. As Sophia mingled with the city's elite, Maya approached the microphone. She had been invited to speak about a community art program she'd developed for underprivileged children. The project, which blended technology and artistic expression, was revolutionary. "Technology isn't just about devices," Maya began, her voice clear and strong. "It's about connection, about giving children a voice." Elena watched from the sidelines, observing Sophia's increasing discomfort. Her mother-in-law's carefully maintained composure began to crack, tiny fissures appearing in her impeccable facade. The presentation was a masterpiece of strategic revelation. Maya shared stories of children who had transformed their lives through art and technology, each narrative subtly highlighting her own journey of adoption and resilience. She demonstrated how the iPhone, the very device Sophia had withheld, could be a tool of empowerment. Afterwards, influential community members surrounded Maya. The regional newspaper's editor approached, requesting a full feature on her project. Sophia watched, her smile becoming increasingly brittle. But this was just the beginning. Carlos discovered something interesting during his investigation. A series of financial inconsistencies in the Garrett Family Foundation caught his attention. Nothing illegal, but certainly ethically questionable. He began compiling evidence, each document a potential weapon. Rebecca worked her own network, strategically sharing Maya's achievements in circles where Sophia's social standing mattered most. Local art galleries expressed interest in Maya's work. Scholarship committees reached out. The narrative was shifting. The next strategic move came through Maya's school. Her teachers nominated her for a prestigious Technology and Arts Innovation Award. The selection committee included several of Sophia's close professional contacts. During a YESI family dinner, the tension became palpable. Sophia's biological grandchildren talked about their latest achievements, expecting the usual praise. But the conversation kept circling back to Maya. "Did you hear about Maya's art program?" Rebecca would interject. "The community center is expanding it citywide." "Another scholarship offer came in," Carlos would add casually, watching Sophia's expression. Maya remained composed, her strategy of quiet excellence speaking louder than any direct confrontation. The pressure mounted. Sophia's carefully constructed world began to show strain. Her social media, once a curated display of family perfection, became a battleground of subtle revelations and strategic storytelling. Elena discovered old family letters that hinted at deeper issues, generational patterns of conditional love, of measuring worth through narrow, arbitrary standards. These weren't just about Maya, they were about a toxic family legacy. At a pivotal moment during a family gathering, Sophia attempted to reassert control. "I've always done what's best for this family," she declared, her voice sharp. Maya stepped forward. "Have you?" The question hung in the air, simple yet devastating. The room fell silent. Years of unspoken tensions condensed into that single moment. Sophia realized the game had changed. No longer could she control the narrative. Her granddaughter, the one she had tried to marginalize, was rewriting the story. The confrontation was just beginning. The final confrontation arrived on a crisp autumn evening, unexpected yet meticulously prepared. The Garrett family home, a sprawling Victorian mansion that had witnessed generations of carefully maintained facades, would become the stage for a reckoning decades in the making. Maya arrived first, accompanied by Elena and Carlos. She carried a leather portfolio, her movements deliberate, her posture betraying a confidence that belied her young age. Rebecca was already inside, having orchestrated the gathering with surgical precision. Sophia's biological children and grandchildren filtered in, sensing something momentous was about to unfold. The air crackled with unspoken tension. "I've invited everyone here for a reason," Sophia began, attempting to seize control of the narrative as she always had. Her silver hair was perfectly coiffed, her emerald brooch, a family heirloom, pinned meticulously to her designer blazer. Maya stepped forward, placing her portfolio on the antique coffee table. "I want to talk about inheritance," she said, her voice steady. The room fell silent. Inside the portfolio were documents, carefully collected evidence that would unravel generations of family mythology. Adoption papers, financial records, old letters that revealed a complex history of family secrets. The first revelation came like a thunderbolt. Maya had discovered the truth about Sophia's own adoption, a fact long buried, known only to a few. Sophia herself was adopted, a secret she had spent decades concealing, ironically discriminating against adopted children while hiding her own origins. "You were adopted in 1952, Maya stated, sliding a yellowed document across the table. "From a small orphanage in Boston. Your biological parents were never known." Sophia's composure cracked. For the first time, Elena saw genuine vulnerability in her mother-in-law's eyes. Carlos had done his research meticulously. He presented financial documents revealing how Sophia's family wealth was built on a complex network of investments that weren't as pristine as they appeared. Ethical gray areas, questionable business practices. "The iPhone was never about the device," Maya continued, her voice a blend of compassion and steel. "It was about belonging, about worth." Rebecca shared her own discoveries, how their grandfather had created elaborate systems of favoritism, pitting his children against each other. How Sophia had internalized these toxic patterns, perpetuating a cycle of conditional love. But this wasn't a moment of pure condemnation. Elena had ensured that. "We're not here to destroy," she said, stepping forward. "We're here to understand, to break the cycle." The most profound moment came when Maya pulled out a final document, a DNA test she had voluntarily taken, which revealed genetic connections to the Garrett family that no one had anticipated. A biological link that Sophia had never known existed. "Adoption doesn't define family," Maya said. "Love does." Tears streamed down Sophia's face, the first genuine emotion anyone had seen from her in years. The carefully constructed walls she had built around herself began to crumble. Michael, one of Sophia's biological grandchildren, spoke up. "Grandma, is this true?" The room held its breath. Sophia's response was barely a whisper. "I was so afraid of being seen as less," she said, "of not being enough." Maya approached her grandmother, not with anger, not with revenge, but with a hand extended in understanding. "You are enough," she said softly. "We all are." The mansion, a structure built on secrets and unspoken pain, seemed to exhale. Generations of hurt began to dissolve, replaced by something more fragile, more beautiful. Healing had begun. The weeks following the confrontation transformed the Garrett family landscape. Sophia's world, once a carefully constructed fortress of expectations, had been dismantled, rebuilt on a foundation of raw honesty. Maya began spending time with her grandmother, not out of obligation, but genuine curiosity. They would sit in Sophia's sunroom, surrounded by family photographs that now told a different story. Sophia shared stories she had never spoken before, about her own journey of feeling like an outsider, of the fear that had driven her actions. "I thought keeping people at a distance would protect me," Sophia confessed one afternoon. "I never realized it was destroying the very connections I wanted to preserve." Elena observed these interactions, seeing a gradual softening in both Maya and Sophia. The iPhone, that initial symbol of division, seemed almost trivial now. They were negotiating something far more valuable: genuine connection. Carlos worked with Sophia to address the financial discrepancies discovered during their investigation. Rather than using the information as a weapon, they approached it as an opportunity for transparency and healing. The Garrett Family Foundation began implementing more inclusive policies, with Maya serving as a youth advisor. Rebecca played a crucial role in family mediation. Her ability to see multiple perspectives helped bridge communication gaps that had existed for decades. She organized family gatherings that felt less like strategic operations and more like genuine reunions. Maya's art project expanded. Inspired by her journey, she developed a program supporting adopted children, creating a platform for storytelling and connection. The very technology Sophia had once used to divide became a tool for understanding. The biological grandchildren, Michael, Emma, and Zachary, began to see their grandmother differently. They learned about the complexity of family, about the ways love transcends biological connections. Sophia made a public commitment. She established a scholarship fund for adopted children, naming it after Maya. It was more than a gesture of redemption. It was a fundamental shift in her understanding of family and worth. "I was wrong," she told Maya during one of their conversations. "Not just about the iPhone, about everything." Maya's response was characteristically nuanced. "We're all learning," she said. "Healing isn't about being perfect, it's about being present." The transformation wasn't immediate or complete. There were still difficult conversations, moments of tension. But something fundamental had changed. The family had chosen connection over division, understanding over judgment. Elena watched her daughter, this remarkable young woman who had turned a moment of hurt into an opportunity for growth, and felt an overwhelming sense of pride. Maya hadn't sought revenge. She had sought understanding. During a family dinner, Maya presented Sophia with a gift. It was an iPhone 16 Pro Max, identical to the ones her cousins had received. But this was different. Preloaded with a digital photo album documenting their family's journey, complete with stories of resilience, love, and transformation. "Some inheritances," Maya said, "are worth more than any device." Sophia's tears were different now. Not of pain, but of genuine connection. The real gift had never been about technology. It had been about seeing each other, truly seeing each other, for the first time. 2 years had passed since the family's transformative confrontation. The world outside continued its relentless spin, but inside the Garrett Rodriguez household, something profound had changed. Maya stood at her college acceptance ceremony, wearing a graduation gown that seemed to shimmer with possibility. Beside her, a familiar figure, Sophia, watched with tears in her eyes. No longer the distant, judgmental grandmother, but a woman who had learned the true meaning of love. The scholarship fund Maya had inspired had grown beyond their wildest expectations. Dozens of adopted children now received support, their stories of belonging echoing through community centers and schools. What had begun as a moment of hurt had blossomed into a movement of understanding. Elena reflected on their journey. The iPhone, that initial symbol of division, now seemed like a distant memory. Technology had become a bridge, not a barrier. Maya's digital storytelling project had gained national recognition, helping adopted children share their narratives of resilience and hope. Carlos continued to support their family's transformation, his quiet strength a constant presence. He had learned that healing wasn't about grand gestures, but about consistent, compassionate presence. Rebecca had become more than just an aunt. She was a bridge builder, helping other families navigate complex emotional landscapes. The lessons learned from their family's journey became her life's work. Sophia's transformation was perhaps the most remarkable. She had become an advocate for inclusive family practices, speaking at conferences about generational trauma and the importance of unconditional love. The woman who once drew lines of division now worked tirelessly to erase them. During a family gathering, Maya pulled out the original iPhone, the one that had started everything. Instead of a symbol of hurt, it was now a reminder of their journey. She had kept it, not as a trophy of revenge, but as a testament to growth. Some wounds, Maya would often say, are actually opportunities in disguise. The Garrett family Christmas had become a celebration of difference. Adopted and biological children played together, their laughter a melody of true belonging. Sophia would watch, surrounded by a family she had once tried to control, now embracing her completely. Elena's artwork, inspired by their journey, hung in galleries, telling a story of transformation. Each piece a testament to the power of understanding, of choosing connection over division. As the sun set on another day, Maya looked at her family. The scars remained, but they were no longer wounds. They were markers of resilience, of a journey traveled together. The true inheritance wasn't something that could be wrapped, gifted, or measured by technological advances. It was this: the ability to see beyond surface differences, to choose love in its most authentic form. A family reimagined, a story rewritten,